Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. This is going to be the second episode of our foray into Mistborn, the Final Empire. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
And this is the second episode into our foray into Mistborn, the Final Empire.
So it is. Yeah. Isn't that exciting?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
I am really excited.
So we're covering chapters 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yep.
There actually was a lot that happened in 3 and 4.
Yeah, there
now,
were.
Granted, there was a lot that happened in our last video, Prologue 1 and 2.
Right.
But I really felt like this kind of helped set the stage a little. It gave us some answers and kind of set the stage for the rest of the book.
Right.
Yeah, it's like Sanderson seems to do a good job of kind of that slow reveal and just kind of peeling back the layers of, hey, here's what's kind of going on. And he makes you think things are going one way, and then there's just kind of a subtle shift. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a lot more at play here than I thought. You know, it's not just a simple heist or a scam that they're running.
Did we talk about last time how Sanderson he's like a creative writing professor at BYU?
Yeah. We didn't talk about that, but
it's
we
interesting.
might have mentioned it 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
But it feels like, he's almost a master of disguise where you're kind of zigging one way and then he all of a sudden zags another, and it really kind of feels like you're left on a cliffhanger every chapter or two.
Yeah, there's definitely hooks in there that just really, it's like, ooh, I want to keep reading.
Yeah,
I need to go to bed.
Yeah. And again, as we read further into this, it's more and more interesting that Robert Jordan's widow picked him to do Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Because there is so much exposition and, as we said, flowery language and things with that and with Jordan's writing style.
And Wheel of Time was much more traditional fantasy, the way it's structured and written and told, and the characters.
And that's what I expected going into this.
Yeah.
Is that technically considered high fantasy?
I
think this is like a lower fantasy or low fantasy.
This is like crazy fantasy.
Well,
crazy fantasy.
It's definitely not as structured.
I may have just coined a new genre.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
crazy
feels
fantasy.
like there's elements of like sci-fi, and there's elements of different genres in here.
Sure.
I mean, it's
but before we get too far, maybe we should do the synopsis.
Yeah. So chapter 2 kind of ended after Vin and Cayman and this crew went in to try to scam the obligators into giving them a contract and money for, I think it was like a shipping contract that they were going after.
It was like 3,000
boxings, which apparently is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Vin uses her luck to kind of make things go their way. So after that, Vin is very nervous about having met with the obligator, and it causes her to want to leave Cayman's lair. She tells Ulef, who's another member of the crew, and she wants to bring him along, but he turns and tells Cayman, and while she's going to get kind of her personal things, and she's gathering her things, including an earring that her mother gave her, which is the first mention of her mother, and that she's kind of an orphan at this point. You know, that we don't know exactly what happened to her mother yet. But the earring's something that is kind of a personal effect that's important to her. At this point, Kelsier shows up. He saves Vin. He promotes.
He doesn't just show up though. He makes an awesome entrance.
Oh yeah,
that was an awesome entrance.
Yeah, he totally just enters, controls the room, and shuts everything down. Saves Vin. He makes another member of the crew a crew leader. He takes the 3,000 boxings as payment for dealing with the obligator and the Inquisitor who were following. So after the meeting from chapter 2, this obligator and this Inquisitor were following basically Cayman and Vin and that crew, and they were going to take him down.
Finish him all off.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, Kelsier and Doxson kind of lead them astray or lead them away from the, what they call it, the safe house. And then they go and kind of intervene with the meeting when Cayman's getting ready to be. He started beating Vin, didn't he?
He started to,
And then is that where
he had a couple shots
threw the chair at her and some other stuff? So anyway, so then he takes the money as payment. He kicks basically the rest of the crew out so he can talk to Vin and test her because he thinks she might be a Mistborn.
Turns out she is.
Yeah. And then chapter 4, so Kelsier and Doxson, they kind of left for a while and let the crew return. The crew talks about what happened, speculating a little bit of the job. At a certain time, the crew leaves, and some others arrive. Kelsier pitches his plan regarding a Ska rebellion. Kelsier's crew agree except for a man named Clubs, who decides to walk out. They all kind of agree to the plan except him. Kelsier reveals to the others that Vin is a Mistborn, and then tells them and shows them the 11th metal. So they kind of get into allomancy a little bit more here and talk about the 10 metals and alloys, and that there's another 11th highly valuable metal out there that the Lord Ruler has kind of a stash of somewhere.
Sure. And that's kind of his weakness.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this really does a lot to advance what we already learned from the prologue in chapters 1 and 2, right? You kind of lay the groundwork, you get some more information on allomancy, you learn more about Kelsier and him surviving the pits and some of the circumstances that he endured due to that, like his wife was killed in the pits and things like that. And with Vin, who is basically like grown up in this world where she doesn't trust anyone and she's just like existing, for her to see that this guy was in the pits for a year, clawed his way out.
He's got
lost
the scars
his
all
wife.
up and down his arms to prove,
Yeah.
you know, that he's
a
a
survivor
survivor
at
at one point.
Hatson.
Right.
Yeah.
She makes like this observation, she's like, how can he be like laughing and smiling?
Yeah,
and things like that.
And that's another one that I kind of thought about when I was reading it. Is, you know, this could be a very, very dark story. You know, it's a bleak world. It's, you know, an oppressed people.
Bad
for some
things
reason,
happen.
right?
Yeah.
But Kelsier's got this optimism about him and this kind of almost like a happy-go-lucky attitude that he's just kind of having fun with all this in some weird way. And
well, they kind of say that, I want to say it was in chapter 2, where he doesn't necessarily, he doesn't just survive, he chooses when to die, and he's kind of like that free spirit that's just like kind of in it for the long haul. He doesn't really seem like he's going anywhere, and I think he'll probably be a mainstay for the rest of the book.
Yeah.
Because I hope he does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly possible he's like a Obi-Wan character where he teaches Vin how to do her skills and then passes on
that's
pretty
kind of
early.
what I'm hoping he's not, because I feel like he's kind of the mentor type character, but he's younger, he's much more spry. You know, Obi-Wan's kind of this wise old sage that's handing off what he knows to the next generation. But Kelsier, I think they said he's like in his 30s roughly, or you know that. You know, I assume that's kind of how I read the character.
Really young. Yeah.
True.
But
some of us are in our 40s.
I don't know.
Someday.
But anyway, but what about?
Whoa.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of touch. We kind of touched on it last time on the structure of this whole allomancy, but in thinking about the allomancy as kind of a magic system within a fantasy world, how kind of well thought out and cool is it compared to, you know, it's not like, oh, I've got a magic wand and I'm just going to make this happen, or I'm going to say these magic words and that's going to happen. It just feels very real and very elemental, you know, that they can use these different things that are out there to enhance their being and their powers, and only...
It seems almost as tangible as what we experienced in The Name of the Wind.
Yeah, the whole sympathy and binding of different things, that there's different pairings of things that just make sense
even
together.
if you don't, like, understand it 100%, just the way it's conveyed and the way, like, the characters go about it, you know that it's well thought out, and there are structures and limitations and boundaries in place.
Right.
Which is really cool. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die.
It's so structured.
Yeah. Did you ingest the metals?
Might have.
Okay.
Might have, yeah.
Actually, that was kind of a cool part. I like the fact that, you know, Kelsier, you know, had that vial with him and had to shake it up, and it was, you know, like that skepticism, because I was kind of afraid when I reached that point in the book. It was like, oh, she's just going to take it willingly.
Yeah.
No, she was extremely skeptical, which was in character with who she was.
Yeah, and I like that she's extremely distrustful. She's all about kind of saving herself, and even, you know, even that they came and rescued her.
Yep.
She didn't all of a sudden just kind of bond with them. She's
Right.
still very skeptical,
Right.
very reserved,
Yeah.
not giving away much on
Don't
who she
trust
is.
anyone because
Right.
anyone can backstab you.
Right.
But after this initial conversation, this testing, and the crew comes back, Kelsier has a meeting with basically his crew.
Yeah.
And Vin is the first one there, and a couple people show up. And is it Breezer? Is that right?
Something
Or
like
just Breeze or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
But like
Is he the smoker? Was that the?
he's
Oh,
the
yeah.
he's the
Clubs
one
is
that
the smoker.
Club, yeah.
Clubs is a smoker. But this guy was like, he came in and like, and Vin's perception of him is like, oh, he's like, he's put together, he's well-to-do, he's really nice, and turns out later on she realizes that he's using quote-unquote luck on
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and she still doesn't quite realize what it is or what's going on here.
yeah.
But Kelsier and Doxson obviously recognize that she's got the Mistborn, or she's a Mistborn.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 1 in 10,000 they say.
Something
are.
crazy
And it's
like that,
typically
yeah.
the noble class that is.
Not the ska.
Right.
Right.
So that starts to bring into questions kind of that old fantasy trope of the orphan or somebody who's got these
Yep.
secret powers, and but we don't know who her parents are or who her mother was. We start
Well,
to get some
And
talk about it, but
But Kelsier definitely says something to the fact that she is only the second ska that he knows that's got these powers.
in addition to
Besides her.
himself.
And he was the
Yeah.
other one. Okay,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. And he is a half-breed.
Yeah.
He mentioned that
And-
kind of briefly.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was, again, I'm reading ahead, but did he talk about the pits of Hassan, or it really snapped him into understanding?
He mentioned it
briefly.
once.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where he didn't really have these powers until he was trapped in these pits and kind of found that, hey, I've got something here. And they say that people are either born with it or they're snapped into it, is what
Gotcha.
he
Oh,
talks
interesting.
about.
Okay.
So they might kind of discover it as they grew up, or
Sure.
something triggers it. So I don't want to spoil it, but that's it.
Okay.
It's. I thought that was kind of
Makes
cool
sense,
too,
yeah.
though. That it's, there might be people laying dormant with it that have no idea they have it, but some traumatic event may trigger it.
Well, and up to this point, we haven't met anyone yet who just has one of the powers, because you can either have one of the elements. Oh, do we know some people who
Well,
just
Breeze
do one?
is using something.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
And then I think they mentioned Clubs as a smoker, what they call it, but it's basically somebody who can kind of create you can run interference. So if somebody's using
Like
their
a,
luck,
a smoke screen.
yeah,
Yep.
so he can basically make it
Yeah.
so people don't realize that somebody's using their powers within a space. But so we have met a couple of Mistings, but I don't think they've called them out specifically.
Sure.
But they are ones that can use just. So I think that's what, when Kelsier is talking about pulling this crew together, they each have a different thing that they bring to the table.
Right. But they get to the point where they're talking about like what they're planning, and it's like overthrowing the Lord Ruler, taking his supply of the 11th metal,
Creating a ska army.
They're working with like the leader of the Ska Rebellion. I mean, it's
Well,
it's grandiose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
and especially-
incredibly.
they've mentioned even that the Lord Ruler is immortal. That
Yeah,
he was the one who
he's like
granted
the-
all these powers to begin with. Like he is the beginning of
Isn't he
time.
like the splinter of God or
Yeah.
something? He's like basically a god in some sort of
Yeah.
So to overthrow not only
corporeal form.
the
but-
government, but to overthrow God as well,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, I mean, it's a typical Thursday for me. So
Oh,
yeah,
Today's Wednesday.
man.
I know.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's just planning ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
He's always a couple steps ahead. Isn't he?
Wow, that's impressive.
Mhm.
I am impressive. Sorry, I was lost in my narcissism for a second, but I'm better now.
All right. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely lost my train of thought now. But
Sorry.
But it sets the stage pretty well for what we can maybe expect in the future. I mean, so again, it's kind of like last time I mentioned the Italian Job. Each person has kind of their own special skill set.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have the safe cracker, you've got the lookout, you've got the driver, you've got all these different things to pull off this heist.
It seems like when he lays it out, he lays it out in a way that makes it sound like it's going to be a walk in the park, but it's legitimately it seems like this insurmountable climb.
And I think when you tell Kelsier he's crazy. This isn't. Why are we even talking about this? But and I think does Clubs even just walk out at some point?
He does.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, I'm not in.
This is stupid.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
And Vin is like, you're just gonna let him leave.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows your whole plan. And
now, do you kind of get the feeling, and I think we discussed this before, but are these shorthand names for other people, or do you think they're aliases for other people? Because even Doxson was like, hey, Kel, how's it going?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you've got Breeze, you've got Clubs, you've got
Ham.
Yeah. All these.
I hadn't thought about that until you brought it up, but yeah, I mean, it does seem like it's.
Are they
you
nicknames that you get in the underworld, or
could be?
Is the naming convention of this world that he's created just weird?
Yeah,
true.
I don't know. I tend to think it's part of the guild because you've got Lord Tristram and you've got some of these other kind of noble names, but then within this other underworld, they've kind of got these different aliases, maybe. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like where this is going.
Yeah, and I think that really Name of the Wind was the last book I read when it first came out, which was 2007 or 8. I can't remember. It was 10 or more years ago. That was the last time that I really remember picking up a book for the first time and really be like, I can't put this down.
Yeah.
And this one is one that I start reading at night, and I've got to put it down because
you have to go to bed.
Reading. I know, and so it's I want to keep reading it because I want to see where it's going. But that's the first time I've had that experience.
Well, I mean, at your age, beauty rest is important.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, you must have gotten your sleep last night. You look pretty good today.
Oh, I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
But what I really like is you have a general idea of where things are going, but you still don't know where things are going.
Well, you still don't know exactly where they're going, or are the motivations, are they all really, is it really about the Ska Rebellion, or does Kelsier, knowing that he was thrown into the pits of Hathsin by the Lord Ruler, is it purely just revenge? Does he care about the rebellion at all, or is he just out for revenge, or is he...
Can I say that I still think Menace, who was in that prologue, he seemed like a go-getter. He was older. He was in his 40s, 50s, 60s.
40s is older.
But how old was it? But for a Ska, that was pretty old.
Yeah, because it's a hard life, so it's a hard knock life.
So you sound like Annie now.
Sorry.
But I feel like that's going to play an integral part into some of the later chapters. Yeah. Because at this point, we don't know where all of the Ska are from that plantation.
Lord Tristram. If he was basically killed in the manor, burned, what happened to the Ska?
They're in the caves, presumably. Yeah. But where are they? Right. Yeah. Right. What are they up to?
Yeah. Did they just continue working? Even though there's no lord there to lord over them?
I don't know. I feel like Kelsier kind of has them in his back pocket. Hey, I did this for you guys. Come and help me at a later date.
I think that talking about raising a Ska army, they might come back into play here.
So, here's a question I have. We've learned a lot about
42.
Okay. But the answer of all things in the universe.
We've learned a lot about Allomancy. Maybe not a lot, but we've learned more about it.
I think there's a huge thing we haven't learned. But I think we've learned enough to know that there's a lot there.
At this point, we don't know what the weakness or the negative consequence is.
Correct.
That's a good point.
There has to be one. So what is it? If there wasn't one, they would just walk through and just dominate everything until they got to the Lord Ruler, and then there'd be a boss battle like a video game, and it'd be done.
Yeah, so we've kind of learned about the potential of it, but not really the limitations of it.
Right. That. So that was just something thinking as we were reading. It's
Interesting.
There's got to be like a downside or like.
Yeah, and I don't want to get
Yeah.
ahead, but I know that when Kelsier does start to kind of teach Vin some stuff, but he talks about how certain metals burn faster than others, and there are some side effects that he touches on, but really not that much yet. So I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
So, but he's mentioned it, so there are other effects, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of like when they talk about going back to the comparison to Dune, overuse of the spice can create different side effects, and like the Guild Navigators have these, these visions and the way that they can fold space, and that Muad'Dib's got these powers from drinking the water of life and the spice that it just
And not dying.
right.
Yeah.
But there's side effects to all of it. So.
Sure.
Like the blue and blue eyes.
I really want those.
Yeah, those would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't have blue eyes though.
No, me neither.
I think I do.
Do you? Okay.
But he's not sure.
Well, I can't see them, so it's a lot harder.
He's like all of 12 or 13 years old, and he doesn't know what color his eyes are.
I
So.
know.
Michelle will tell you that I am partially colorblind, so
Oh, in that case,
In
they're
fairness.
pink.
I might be tempted
Yeah.
to believe you.
He's not albino. Oh.
I got to be pretty close, though, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But we digress.
Yes,
We do. I think we've pretty much hit the high points.
Yeah, I think we kind of torn through chapters 3 and 4 here. So.
Next week we will be back at you with chapters 5+. I don't know what those are yet, but we'll figure it out. We'll let you know. We might actually post that on Twitter and Instagram so you guys can kind of keep track of where we're at.
Yep.
And you can follow along as we're reading.
But Chris, where do I find us on Twitter and Instagram?
Oh, what a great question. Oh my goodness.
Nice segue.
Twitter and Instagram, our handle is at TDW Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/TDW Podcast. If you look in the description of the video, we have an affiliate link to Amazon if you wish to buy the book to follow along. We get a very small, I'm assuming small percentage of any purchase made through affiliate link, but that will help us make the show better, get better lighting, get a better, well no, our mic is pretty badass. Maybe a better camera.
Camera would probably be
Camera.
Yeah, we need a better
It'll
camera.
also help us get over our colds faster.
Right, and I
Jim.
wouldn't
Sure.
say no to meth. No, actually I would say no to meth. Meth is a terrible idea. Don't do meth.
Did you say math? Mathematics?
Meth and math are pretty much the same thing.
Meth is really bad for your teeth. I don't know if it's bad for anything else, but I know that it
And
really
math
creates
is bad
teeth
for
problems.
you in general.
Math.
Yeah. Don't do math.
But in
kids.
Discovery, they said the power of math. That's the power of math, people.
I mean, that's Stamets. He's a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
So.
I thought that was Tilly.
Oh yeah, it was.
It was.
She's a little woo-woo too.
She's a little out there, but
So, thinking makes me numb. Math makes me number.
nice. Should we wrap this up?
He's here all week. Try
Every
the
week.
veal. All right.
Tip your waitresses.
And then lastly, we have a webpage. It is www.tardiscast.com. It's down there.
Oh, I see it.
Check us out. We've got a blog. We've got links to our partners and other fun things.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
See you next time. Thank you for joining. Please click the subscribe button if you like what you saw. And we'll be back with you next week for more content.
Allons-y.
How do I stop it?